Okay, good day and welcome back. We're back on the RTE this morning. Up a little bit earlier this morning. We got something fun and exciting going on this afternoon, so got to get as much done as I can this morning. Yesterday we ran into some issues. Let me show you what was going on. So, we haven't talked much about the oil circulating system inside this engine. What I found was we were having a hard time getting it to crank over. Now, we were able to get it to turn over so that we could put all the caps on and get everything torqued and all of that, but it just wasn't turning over as easily as it should. And I had a feeling that once we got a starter on there and a battery that it wasn't going to turn at all, and that is exactly what happened. So we started the build up on Monday, continued on Tuesday, and then Tuesday afternoon is when I realized that we potentially had a problem, and we've been working on that. So yesterday was Wednesday, today is Thursday. Yesterday I finally got it solved, and I didn't get much of it on camera, but I'll kind of walk you through what it was and what the troubleshooting steps were. So, as I said, it wasn't cranking over fast enough, and I was pretty much under the impression that I had a main bearing issue. So, when the head cracked, I didn't know it for the first couple of months, because it still started. So as soon as winter was over, I was able to start it. I didn't see an issue. We were able to go through show season, and it was right around August of that year during the show season that I realized that there was a problem, because it started spitting water out of the exhaust. So water was steadily getting into the oil, and then this thing was sucking it up and putting it into the bearings. And then when I drained the oil out of it, or actually probably even before when it got stuck, water was up in those bearings and it actually rusted. So even without pistons, it was turning over hard. So what I felt we needed to do was we needed to get oil pressure up into those bearings, and I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work. So the way that the circulatory system on this thing works is there's a pump down here that is submerged right now. The pump brings the oil into the filter. So the pump is here, the filter's here, and then it brings it right back out the same direction. And from there it branches off and goes two places. One is up into this rear main, and the second is up into the side of the block here through this port. So from there, the oil gets into this main, and then it travels down the center of the crankshaft, and it oils all of our bearings on the piston rods, and then makes its way all the way up to the front, and it oils the front main. And then the other port would, once the cover's on, this little crevice is for our oil pressure gauge, and then it goes back in through that port, and it finds its way up into the governor, and then up over to this main seal for the distributor. And then there's a line that goes from here to the heads, and then that goes through and oils all of our valves. So I had to find a way to get oil back into these two mains. I started with a hand pump and was able to get pressure back through that port and into this rear main, and then it slowly started to spin a little better and a little better, and we had to get it to the point where we could actually get the starter doing the spinning. Once we got the starter doing the spinning and we got the engine turning enough to create pressure in the pump, then I could fill the oil pan with oil and let it feed itself all the way through the crank up to the main. So we really made a mess. Put some oil dry down last night, but we had a pretty good oil mess because once we started cranking with oil going through the pump, it started coming out the port, and there's really no stopping it at that point, which is fine. But it was a couple of hours of troubleshooting, of just spinning and spinning and spinning until I knew I could see oil passing through all of the journals, and I knew that it was getting up to the main, and now it's turning over like it should. So now I'm confident that we can go ahead and put the safety wire on and then close this case up and be done with it. So that is where we're at this morning. This morning we're going to be putting the safety wire on. I got the safety wire from O'Reilly's yesterday, and $45 later I've got way more than I'm ever going to use. So I can screw this up a couple times and we're good. Okay, first rod cap with safety wire is complete. That went a little better than I thought it was gonna. Never done this before, so this is a new one. This is the old piece that came off, and that's the new one side by side as far as how much of a tie was on the end, so that's pretty close. I do remember that they were crisscrossed like this, so we're just following what was in there. Yeah, doesn't seem to be any too much magic that goes along with it, so we'll do the next three and move on. Okay, number 2 is done. Okay, number 3. And number 4. Okay, the safety wire is all installed. I drained out the oil that we used to flush with, which there was quite a bit of water that came out with it, so I'm glad we did it. Hopefully got all the water out of that crankshaft, and now we will put the inspection plate on. Okay, the inspection plate is back on, and now we got to cover up the valves. First inspection plate is on. Okay, number 2 is on, and that closes up the left side of the tractor. I also put the oil line back on. Got the drain plug back in after draining out the oil that I used to flush the water out. So everything on this side sealed up except for our oil gauge line, which will go on after I get everything in its proper position. Alright, back on the right side of the tractor. Now it's time to put the head on. So I'm going to bring it back over, put it back on. I'm going to get all the nuts snugged up, and then we'll go through the torquing sequence. And one thing that I remembered is that the oil bath, the bracket, goes under these 2 head nuts. So we're going to put that on at the same time so that I don't have to undo those and retorque them again. Okay, the new head gaskets will go on first. Is there an up and a down to these? Yeah, there is. I had it the right way. Not an overly big fan of that. There, that went on better. Okay, I'm going to get all the nuts on and snugged up, and then I'll bring you back for the torquing sequence. Okay, we've got our torque spec diagram right here. It's a little very hard to see, but basically we're going to start in the center and just wind our way out to the end. The torque spec is 65 foot-pounds, so we're going to go 20 pounds, then 40 pounds, and then the final 65. So Will is going to get started. I've already got the wrench set for 20 pounds, and just follow this order.
Yep. All right. The first one's right here, right?
Yep. Nope. Don't go too. Let it click, and then click again.
Yeah, I know.
So not too. It doesn't take too much force.
There's number 3 right here. And then, because then it goes up there.
Here, like this.
Yeah.
This hand, no, let go. This hand here, that hand there. Okay.
Just kind of works in a circle out.
Yep.
So now it's this one. Why is it such a specific pattern?
It's supposed to press the gasket out so that you don't get bubbles in it, so that everything gets flattened down evenly. This one?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you reset it to 40.
Just twist up a bit.
Just twist it, yeah. No, you twist the whole handle.
No, it's the whole handle.
Yep. That should be 30.
Or is it the
That's
bottom?
40. No, it's the bottom. See how the line goes down?
Right there?
Yep.
And to do it all again?
Yep.
Perfect. Let go.
Double click it. Always double click it. Alright, everything is torqued down and happy. We did have to pause because some of the hardware started to give us trouble. These nuts are getting pretty old, and we had actually 2 of them start to strip out on us. So went to the hardware store, got some new hardware, got it all torqued down. Now we're gonna do just a couple odds and ends. We'll get the exhaust put back on, and then we'll take a look at the water pump. I got all the hardware chased for the exhaust, so I'm gonna go ahead and get all that put in. We'll get the gasket on, we'll get the exhaust and the intake put back in. All right, the bench is empty. That is a good sign. Okay, we're getting close. So everything that could go on and get buttoned up at this point is. All the spark plugs are in. I got the sensor back in for the coolant temperature. I got the choke back on. I've got muffler back on. I've got the upper water pipe back on. I got to get a different battery. That battery's a little too tall, so I couldn't get the tank completely on, which is okay because it doesn't secure down until you put the hood on, so it really doesn't matter. So yeah, the point that we're at now is this last component, which is the water pump. So I talked about in another video that I've got this second water pump that came off of that V4. Just in comparison of the two, this one looks a lot less worn. It might even be newer year-wise, but the baffles on both were both pretty bad. This is the one that came out of the R. This is the one that came with the V4. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to pick one for the moment, so it's probably going to be this one. So we're going to clean up the water pump from the V4. I'm going to do the best I can to make that baffle usable, and then we'll put the water pump back together. I'll get a coat of Prairie Gold on this. I'll get a new grease circ put in. We'll get it greased, and then we'll cross our fingers and hope that there's nothing wrong with the seal in this one. And that's it. All that's left are the bolts for the hood, the clamp for the hood, and the lower radiator. That's it. Then we can put some gas in it, put the rest of the fluids in it, and fire it up. That's the end of this one. Thanks for sticking with us. I hope you're enjoying what you're watching. If you are, please think about hitting the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Take your foot off the clutch, everybody. Thank you.